Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Cramer. Our guest today is Bridget and Sicsko. It's going to be a very high vibrational conversation today. Let's talk about business mindset. Welcome to the show, Bridget.
Thank you so much, Alicia, for having me.
So you have fantastic energy. You're such a wonderful human being, so full of good vibes. And we're going to dig into business and mindset in a very practical way that is also very grounded and rooted in more of that deep inner connection way, right? So, some people refer to it as spirituality, depending on what people's belief structure is. I love to talk about it in a very, very pragmatic way, which some people think is kind of woo-woo, but it is incredibly scientific, talking about energy and quantum reality and metaphysics. And people are like, metaphysics, ooh, that's weird, right? That's woo-woo. That's, way out there. And the reality is that when you're not looking at it in a superstitious way, when you're looking at it from, a very pragmatic, practical way, a very business centric, like down to earth way, we've got quantum physics, quantum mechanics, we have, all of the sciences, we have neuroscience, and we could just go into all of the psychobabble stuff, but we're talking about really practical stuff here. So welcome to the show. And let's start by talking a little bit about what it is that you're doing in your business so that our listeners get a sense of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I love diving deep on these inner concepts too, and the metaphysics is fun for me, so thank you. I'm Bridget and Sicsko. I'm the founder of Exalted Publishing House, where I work with women entrepreneurs and help them share their stories. I'm also a podcast host myself, so I love interviewing people. I love diving deep into stories once again and having women entrepreneurs use their voice, and I also work as a sales coach. And then beyond that, I'm also a dog mom, a wife, a gardener, an avid yoga teacher and yogi, and a trail runner. So I love to introduce myself as all of me because sometimes in business we can just be business, and I get to be all of me too.
It's a really valid point. And the old way of doing business is incredibly compartmentalized. You are the face of your business, your title. And you don't get to be the other side of yourself until you leave the office. Now, things have changed quite a bit, but there is still a lot of that old consciousness that is integrated in our belief structure around who we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to behave and how we're supposed to do business and what that's supposed to look like. And so even when someone is really well balanced, there is a tendency to not put forth that full authentic version of themselves. There is like this disconnect, almost like this invisible block that is keeping people from showing up authentically in all the ways that make them so uniquely themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, lately in my life, I've had many opportunities to ask myself, who am I beyond my business? Who am I beyond the identities I take on? Even with the example of trail running, who am I if I can't run? Who am I if I'm injured? And these are not easy questions for us to ask ourselves, especially when we've been identifying as a certain type of person for X amount of years. And it's been a beautiful introspective opportunity for me personally.
I think that it is fascinating when you are talking about all the different things that you do in your business and you're incorporating things like being a yogi and a sales coach. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't plenty of sales coaches out there that are practicing yoga or some other type of physical, spiritual discipline. However, it's not typical, right? So there is this comes back to our societal conditioning, right? There is a almost dogmatic belief that sales is a certain way. And it's kind of like I'm doing this thing to you for my own self interests, disguised as your self interest. Now, I'm not even going to go into my whole philosophy on this subject because I would love for you to talk to us about your approach to sales.
I love this topic. One of my first jobs was in sales. I was about 18 years old and I was working for a company called Leah Sophia, which was a home jewelry company where I would go to these middle aged women's homes and sell jewelry. And what I learned is that I didn't have to do much to make the sale. I was having great conversations, I was getting to know these people, we were talking about jewelry, and it was a beautiful time. Fast forward after I graduated college, my first job was in advertising sales, and I was making 100 plus cold calls a day. And I felt my soul being ripped out from my body because what I had known to be true about sales, which was it was based in relationship and getting to know the person and simply providing a service and someone who had a desire and literally connecting them. Like I see it as a beautiful relationship nowadays. It didn't feel like that when I was having that experience at that job. So, what I see it as now is just that. All we're doing is building a bridge between a person who has a want, a desire, need, problem, and the solution to that thing. And it's not rocket science. It's actually very simple what we're doing when we're selling something. And everything is an exchange in our entire world. When I go to get coffee at my local coffee shop, I'm purchasing something, I'm making a sale, and I'm spending my money and I don't even think twice about it. And we get to bring that same philosophy, at least in my eyes, into, the business space, whether you're online or offline. That's all it is. And the way I see it is we have to start with building great relationships. We have to actually be caring about the people. And then, of course, we have to be offering something that people actually desire and then connecting to those people.
I have to share a quick story as well. So when I was 18, I was doing telemarketing sales in a tiny little cubicle. And it was sort of like this fundraiser that they would do. Maybe somebody's even actually been sold this in the past, but they'd have these really big garbage bags, like these industrial heavy duty garbage bags. And you'd call people and you'd sell them these boxes of garbage bags. And that money was going to the local fire department. And I just crushed it at that job. I'm coming in and I'm young and I'm just I have no preconceptions about sales, no preconceptions about cold calling, none of that. And other people in the cubicles, they're really struggling and they're having a hard time. And I'd get hung up on occasionally. I think maybe one or two people swore at me before they hung up. But I mean, it wasn't bad. In fact, because it was really a service to the community and I perceived it as that way, and the feedback that I was getting from people was perceived that way, like, oh, I've been waiting for you to call, we ran out of our garbage bags from last year. And so I just had all of these really positive associations with that. Now, fast forward, um, And here's a great example of this, because of course, I had other jobs that were not so pleasant, working in collections departments and things like that, and listening to people's, you know, sad stories, crying about how they couldn't afford to pay their phone bill, and those types of things. And you start to develop these new points of view, right?
Mm.
Now, fast forward, I am managing a cell phone store, and I remember the owner, kind of give it the spiel, here's how when somebody comes in, and he's got this whole canned, pitch with all of the bells and whistles, and his pointy shiny shoes and the whole shit. And I was like, oh my God, this just feels so gross to me, right? But he was adamant that we do it his way. So tried it his way, was not working, was not working, was not working. And one day I was just like, this is stupid. It's like, you know, I am managing this store, and I'm not in alignment with this at all. And I just started treating people like people. And we went from being one of the lower producers up to, one of the top producers out of multiple different locations. And since then, when I started working with clients as a business mindset coach, helping people through a lot of the mental crap around sales, it really is just treat people with respect at the core of it. But now we have to get rid of all of that fear that we have accumulated and acquired, and all of the beliefs that have sort of been passed on to us. All the things that we've heard about the sleazy salesperson, and how people only, they only want your money, and all of that stuff. So, what are you doing with your clients to help them relieve all of that mental stuff that is directly interfering with their ability to be of service to their clients and customers?
First, I love that you bring it back to being human, because if we can just bring that entire aspect into, I work with mostly online business owners, but into the online space, it would feel a lot different. So that's first and foremost. And the way I see it, I work with a lot of women entrepreneurs who are doing good things in the world, right? I always say that they're not selling McDonald's hamburgers. They are literally here doing mindset work, doing trauma work, doing a lot of healing work, health coaching. Like, these are things that are here to uplift the planet and help this place be better. So I say to myself, like, we need your work. We need your work. And it's not a coincidence that work came to you. My mindset is like, I'm the vessel for a greater message. Like, my mission is really to amplify women's voices. Publishing is like one aspect of that. The other part as a sales coach is helping more women entrepreneurs make more money in their businesses. And it's the same thing for each of us. If we start to see ourselves as these conduits, as these vessels for this greater purpose, and say to ourselves, I'm here today because I'm doing good work on this planet, and there's a person out there who's actually desiring what it is that we offer. And if we start to shift into that space, it becomes this beautiful synchronistic relationship between what we have to offer and the person who's desiring that thing. And then when we are human and we have great relationships and we do talk about what we do, because if we don't talk about what we do, no one's going to know about it. It just becomes, it's such a blessing. I literally see sales as a blessing. And if we can start to shift into that space, I think it'll be very healing for a lot of people who've had some deep fears around the topic.
Yeah, absolutely. You said that you see sales as a blessing, and I think that is a new way of thinking about it for a lot of people. Now, if anyone has done any sales training, they may have heard, you are doing something for the client. Right? If your service, your product, your service really genuinely will help someone, then you are being of service to that person by providing them with that. And like you said, the the principle is right? You've got a problem. I have a problem. You have a problem. Everybody's got a problem. We want a solution to that problem. If the person sitting next to us has a solution to that problem, and we don't know because they're not sharing that with us, we still have our problem and they could have solved our problem.
Yep.
So, this is really a big mindset shift that I think a lot of entrepreneurs need to make. And to some extent, just being in business, you have to sort of work through some of that stuff. You have to break through some of your resistance. But I would be willing to bet that there actually are quite a few people listening at all different levels in their business that could benefit from a bigger mindset shift around sales. I want to talk for a minute about our perceived value, because I know that this is a huge stumbling block for a lot of people, this whole self-worth thing. Like, what am I actually worth? What is my product actually worth? And a lot of people, when they get into scarcity mode, the first thing that they do is they start looking to have sales or discounts or offer their product or service at a lower rate. And I don't think that that is necessary under most circumstances. And I think that it also can sometimes put us at a disadvantage, because now we're reinforcing that conditioning of scarcity, reinforcing that conditioning that we have to put ourselves at a lower value. We have to put our product at a lower value. So I'd love for you to share your thoughts on that.
The first thing that comes to me is I don't want to be the Walmart of the world. And Walmart has an incredible space in the marketplace and they really position themselves extremely well. And that's not for me. And I think we get to ask ourselves, like, I almost see this as just like holding steady. There's a reason that we price our offers at a certain amount of money. And if we've done enough research into understanding, who our ideal client is and what their spending behaviors are, and like what are some of the levels that they're spending at currently, what are their income levels, et cetera, et cetera, that price should be that price. And I really see this as being able to hold steady, hold steady, hold steady. It is funny, and maybe we can talk on this. I've seen some things lately about like, know your worth, and they're equating that to pricing. And I don't know if I necessarily completely agree with that statement because I don't think my worth is necessarily tied to my pricing. Like I can know my pricing and I also know my worth is not integrally connected to anything I'm doing in my business. Like it is so beyond that.
That okay, I want to talk about this. This is great because you're absolutely 100% right. Now, I think where people get tripped up is that sometimes they do need to increase their pricing, right? But what you're saying is so profound because we're not stopping there. It's not your how much you charge for an hour of your time, or how much you charge for your XYZ program, or how much you charge for the software subscription that you developed, or whatever it is only one piece
Mm-hmm.
of your business, not the sum total of your worth. And so if someone is selling a $50 a month subscription to something, I mean, that is a giant mind fuck, really, if you're using that principle, that philosophy of worth. But now if we look at worth as in, my worth is I'm valuable and I'm changing lives, and I'm pricing each of these things accordingly and stepping up and saying, okay, I need another revenue stream. I need another
Mm-hmm.
income stream. I am worth more than this. then it becomes about growth and about scaling and about expansion and about creating more value in the marketplace, not just trying to charge more for the thing that you do.
Yeah, I think it's important to be able to see all of what you just said on the table and identify where maybe you aren't being strategic in the way that you can start to scale and increase the prices versus, yeah, the whole know your worth concept, which is, it doesn't completely land for me because it's so nuanced beyond that.
We could probably go on and on and on. There's a lot of value in this conversation. And if we could even create a couple of small shifts in the way that some people are perceiving sales and their worth, then that is awesome. But now I want to pivot because I've got to ask you, as the business owner, the big question that I love to ask all of my guests. And that is, if you will share with us one mindset obstacle you personally have had to overcome in order to get to where you are today.
One of the big obstacles I faced when I was first starting my business was my age. I'm 28 years old. I've had this business for 5 years. And I had this belief that no one would take me seriously. That why would people pay me? I don't have the life experience they've had, although I've always felt like a very old soul, like 13 going on 30, that kind of vibe. And it was funny because all of my clients are older than me to this day. They just mostly are. And to answer the question of, you know, I don't actually, you didn't really ask how. You didn't ask how.
I did not
You just
ask
asked what it
how.
was.
I did not ask how. If you'd like to share, you are more than welcome to.
This is my way that works for me, but I believe that we're living in a time of experience, right? There's information everywhere on how you can do X, Y, and Z thing. But the real magic of the time is through experience and learning through that experience. So I have thrown myself into the fire, and that's how I learn. I typically learn through just taking one step forward at a time, like setting these big goals, but just like moving one step forward and allowing my nervous system to then adjust to where I'm at in the present moment. And with the age thing, I did have mentors who helped me look into that and ask deeper questions of, why do you think that you're not able to help someone at your age? What are the things that you are very capable of knowing? Like, what knowledge do you have that this person doesn't have? How are you able to support this person beyond age? And it's become what's beautiful about when we're able to move beyond these things and is that it's just not a reality anymore. It's not a time or thought stream I'm connected to anymore.
Love that. And that is the value of doing the inner work.
There we go.
All right, Bridget, how can our listeners connect with you?
So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn at Bridget Sicsko, and my website is bridgetatleen.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Bridget. This has been a fun conversation about sales. Who knew sales could be fun, right? It can and it should. If you are really, really loving what you do and you're following your calling and you're sharing your gifts, it should feel good offering that gift to others. You want to leave us with any final parting thoughts?
Yeah, sales does get to feel good, and let's remind ourselves that without sales in a business, there is no revenue in a business, which probably makes it a hobby. So, buddying up to this concept of sales and finding ways to shift your perception of what this is and what it means to you is going to be very fruitful in the long run.
Perfect. Perfect way to end this segment. Thank you again. And
Thank you so
thank
much.
you to all of our listeners. If you have not already subscribed, please make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.